But let's talk about the news, because there is a lot of news. So last week we touched on the fact that Deutsche Bank might be in super trouble. We have the bullet swaps apparently expiring tomorrow. GameStop NFT Twitter account alluded to something loading on the 29th. Is this it? Are we going to see like $100 billion in closing of short positions that happens here? Not quite sure. SS Mel Johnson with his $1. So man, stuff's getting weird. Stuff's getting weird indeed. So banks are crumbling. The liabilities from Credit Suisse are insurmountable. Regional banks are getting bled dry. We've got all sorts of major news articles coming about commercial real estate, commercial mortgage-backed securities that are all crumbling and aren't worth spit. We've got the federal government is doing quantitative tightening while they're doing quantitative easing. And remember what I was talking about? It was like shit or get off the pot time, like pick one or the other. And I said they were likely to get off the pot while they're shitting. That's exactly what they're doing. They're speedballing the economy. They're printing money and trying to restrict it at the same time. And that is a recipe for just heinous disaster. Don't do that. Pick one or the other and accept the fate. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the worst of both if you shit while getting off the pot. Evergrande, worthless. Anyone who had those bonds, worthless. Which means Royal Bank of Canada, 6% of their entire portfolio, blink, gone, right? One of the biggest banks in the world. We've got reverse repos are going crazy. So we've got over $2 trillion in reverse repos happening right now. And quick explanation, reverse repos, this is when banks give their money overnight to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve gives them interest rate. Right, the interest rate is paying at like 4.8%. That's kind of high. Which means the banks have more money the next night to put in there, which means they gave them more interest rate. Okay. Here's the problem. The banks can still borrow from the Fed at low interest rates because we're quantitative easing again, right? So they can borrow from the Federal Reserve, take that money, give it back to the Federal Reserve, and get a higher interest rate than what they're paying on what they borrowed. So essentially, the government is making an infinite money loop for the banks and then not letting them spend it while we're in the middle of of a coming credit crunch, because we've got just a boatload of commercial bonds, commercial real estate loans, mortgages, all coming due, and they're defaulting. We're at 30% vacancy for commercial real estate across the United States alone. China is probably at 50% vacancy in their big real estate bubble that's happening. This is just perfect storm territory. Sebastian Junger's gonna have to write Perfect Storm 2 to write about all this stuff. So, where does that leave us? Well, if everyone's assets are about to blow up against their liabilities, then the liabilities have to be closed. That's the way the system's supposed to work. But we're not prepared for that. We've never been prepared for everything dying at once. You know, your insurance exists on the probability of something happening, whether it's a car insurance or health insurance, whatever. Like, something will happen at some point, but it'll be spread out over years, and not everyone's supposed to have an accident at the same time. But if every single car in America all on the same day, all 400 million cars or whatever in the United States of America, all got in a crash accident on the same day. Totaled. Done. Insurance companies would go belly up because there's no way they could pay out on 400 million cars all getting into a crash accident on the same day. They count on, you know, a fraction of a percent of cars each day to get in an accident, and they can disperse that. What happened with mortgage-backed securities in 08, 09 was that they were insured by like AIG and others who presented insurance for those securities, and they did not expect all of them to go belly up at once. And yet, all of them went belly up at once, and that drained everything out of the insurance companies, and they needed bailouts. So what we have now is we've got, I don't know, $7, $8, $10 trillion in liability for a whole bunch of short plays that were made by hedge funds and family funds, and their core assets, their bonds, are worthless because the fixed rate bonds have no value in an economy where interest rates are rising. And so they can't figure out how to dump this stuff. And then if they dump it, they admit the loss. And if they admit the loss, then they have to write down their margin, which means they get margin called and liquidated. So everyone is just like waiting around. They're like the hear no evil, see no evil monkeys. Just pretending as though everything's fine. Ha ha. Everything's fine. But someone's going to be that little domino, pink, that starts the whole thing coming down. And we're just in the middle of it, and we're waiting. Hoshi Gaming. Hoshi, thank you.